Have you ever wondered how your sales performance compares against your competitors and peers? The B2B Sales Benchmark Report provides the definitive guide to what success looks like in 2021. See how you compare in terms of win rate, sales cycle, average deal value, relationships, and engagement. You can see the results and get the full report at ebster.com/B2B-sales-benchmarks.
Now tuned into the greatest.
This is Sales Ops Demystified.
X about me.
You have to be closing all the time.
Always be closing.
I love what I do. When you love what you do, you want to be the best at it.
The inches we need are everywhere around us.
Learn from thought leaders in sales operations. Actionable strategies from Sales Ops Ninjas. And now, your hosts, Tom Hunt and Henry Peacock. Sales Ops Demystified.
Welcome to a very special episode of the Sales Ops Demystified podcast. We are joined by Derek, Dean of TTEC. Derek, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Tom. Happy to be here.
So we have a number of years in sales ops experience, currently as the global sales operations manager of TTEC. So let's jump into that. Also some experience with Salesforce, I see. So hopefully we're going to be covering Salesforce related sales ops, which really is like the big kind of topic that the majority of our listeners are interested in. So let's kick off with the first question, as always. Derek, how did you get into sales ops?
Yeah, so to get things started, I actually studied industrial and systems engineering as part of my undergraduate degree, which was really focused on process improvement, primarily in a more of a manufacturing industry and kind of the front lines of velocity and throughput, but kind of always saw myself more in the applying those principles to business. And so my first role was actually project administrator, so not exactly sales ops, but it kind of got me that foundation of working with a lot of different departments. So with marketing, with finance, the project managers and sales teams. And so from there, I really felt like that was kind of where I thrived. I kind of like being behind the scenes and making improvements and getting things done. So my next role was really my introduction into more sales operations as a sales support specialist. And you mentioned at the top of the call about really Salesforce focused sales operations. That was really my first introduction. I implemented Salesforce from scratch, was basically the go-to admin, process builder, reports, metrics, etc. So really got trial by fire and just kind of fell in love with everything that was possible there. So have just continued to build on that experience since that beginning. So I guess that was about 5 years ago. And have really enjoyed this ride so far. So I don't guess you could say I was aiming for sales operations, but kind of everything I did up to that point kind of led me here.
Yeah, and that was going to be my first question actually about, do you feel that your engineering background helps you now in your role today?
Yeah, it's probably not directly applicable as I'm not doing time studies and things like that. But I think it definitely set my mindset on focused on improvement, focused on helping others, making their jobs easier. So I think that's kind of where my focus has always been.
Which is crucial. I mean, your job is to help the most important role in the business perform, right?
Exactly. Yeah. When they succeed, I succeed, and that's so all of our goals are aligned. Even though I may sound like the police, the data police at times, but we're on the same team, and I'm doing those things in order for us all to succeed.
Sure. And before we move on to the next question, do you have direct sales experience yourself? Or are you have you managed to avoid that?
Yeah, I would say I've never had to. I've never been responsible for carrying quotas and stuff. But in my first role as that sales support specialist, I was helping. Somewhat acting as a kind of a inside sales rep, where I was leading the product demonstrations, going to client visits, and kind of helping the sales team in that regard. So just enough of it to kind of get that experience, but I think that's been important too. So even though I haven't necessarily been a sales rep or a sales exec, I've gotten exposure to it and have been close enough to the process.
Sure, and I guess that must help like bring credibility to your interactions with the sales team, right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's all about empathizing and knowing what they're going through and what's on the front lines and communicating that back up to the managers and kind of being that it's kind of like being that liaison between the two and trying to do your best to make everyone's jobs easier while also getting that data or getting that information that the sales leaders need at the same time. So it's a delicate balance.
Got it. Next question: current sales ops tech stack.
Yes. So Salesforce is our CRM. Our marketing team uses Pardot. Sales team and inside sales leverage LinkedIn Sales Navigator, Zoom Info for contacts, and our analytics team leverages Power BI. So we attempt to do a lot of things in Salesforce when we can, especially since that's the primary source of truth. But when we need to get a little bit more advanced, we have a great analytics person on the team that is able to build all that out in Power BI.
Got it. And just for context for the listeners, approximately how many sales reps are we looking at, and how many people in your sales ops team?
Yeah, so we probably have about 50 sellers across the company, but we have probably another 30 to 50 account managers as well. We have an internal demand gen team, probably about the size of about 10 in all. And sales operations we've got several people doing different things. So we've got an analytics person within the sales enablement team. Our director of sales tools and effectiveness has a couple of Salesforce admins. So there's probably about 5 or 6 of us in all that we all work really well together, and we all kind of have overlapping responsibilities at times. So it's nice kind of having redundancy there.
And it sounds like quite a general. Well, it sounds like, because I ask a lot of people these questions, and I'm trying to understand like the ideal ratio of like sales ops resources to salespeople. It seems like you're about in the middle. If we take the account managers, if we count them as well, it's about 5 to 100, which is kind of about in the middle of the ranges that I see. Would you agree that that's like the right ratio? So that's 1 in, if I get my math right, there's 1 in 1 to 20.
Yeah. And so I've actually worked for a couple of smaller businesses as well, and that was basically the ratio, about 1 to 20, with me, being the primary sales ops person, and supporting, not only just the BDs and reps, but kind of those executive sales support and people who were also entering opportunities and contacting leads, et cetera. So I think you're right on.
Got it. Okay, maybe I'm gonna tweet that out and see how many retweets I get. So the tech stack seems like pretty standard, nothing like unusual there.
Mm-hmm.
The way you built that, did you decide on Salesforce and then you like kind of chose stuff after that, or like how did that evolve, and were you involved in that process?
Yeah, so all of these tools were in place prior to my arrival. So I've been at TTEC since the beginning of the year. But my other experiences, it really has been, deciding on what that CRM is and then building out from there. So as you can see, everything is starting to integrate with Salesforce, which has been fantastic. So it's really trying to leverage those tools that you need and trying to make one side of the house speak to the other.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned being the data police earlier. How are you currently dealing with data quality? And are you responsible for that, or are your CRM admins kind of responsible for driving that?
Yeah, it's really an all hands on deck. So each of us have different things that we're looking at and evaluating. We've created several automated reports, several dashboards that the sales team can use themselves, as well as some individuals from other departments. So again, our sales ops teams, they're looking for certain criteria and data integrity. Our finance teams are continuing once deals close, they're evaluating to make sure all the numbers match up with SOWs and things like that. So we've got a lot of eyes looking at it, which is fantastic, and those select admins that can go in and make those changes.
Got it. Now moving on to the sales team, what is your best strategy for getting them to do something that you want them to do?
Yeah, I think it's unique. So over the last 3 years, I've actually been working as in sales ops, sales support as a remote employee. So I think I've kind of had to go above and beyond to develop that trust, build those relationships, and to really establish that, hey, I'm here to help you. So I want to know, what are your pain points? What are some things that you would like to improve? And, kind of consolidate that from all individuals on the team and kind of go forward with with a strategy. So yeah, I think it's all about, one, building that trust and letting them know, here, I'm here to serve you. I'm here to help you in your role and make you perform better. Primarily focused on selling and reducing the time spent on the administrative task. So yeah, I think it's all about that relationship, and making sure that you get the buy-in before you roll out a new tool or roll out a process and say, here you go, have at it.
So what you're saying is that before you try and get them to do anything, you need to essentially show them that you want them to win and you're there to help.
Now tuned into the greatest.
This is Sales Ops Demystified.
And in a quick break from our regular programming, I'd just like to tell you a little bit more about what Evster actually does. We've had a lot of people saying, well, Evster's running this podcast, but we don't actually know what Evster do. Like, what do you guys do? And so the best way I like to describe what Evster does is to say that Evster will connect to every inbox from every employee that your business has ever had, and will then map and score all of the relationships that your business has ever had. So if you had a salesperson that 3 years ago had a relationship with someone, they didn't close that account, so they didn't update or they didn't create that account or add that record in Salesforce, that salesperson leaves the business, you lose that relationship, the business loses that relationship. But if you had Evster running, you would be able to surface all that information, you'd be able to see an engagement score with that person in Salesforce. So a new salesperson, let's say starting tomorrow, can then pick up that relationship and then could start engaging and potentially close that deal. So if that sounds interesting to you, that's just one of the things that Evster's team product does. So you can go to www.evster.com/SOD. That's www.evster.com/SOD, and jump on a quick demo with one of our team.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's what I've tried to do in my already short time here at TTEC, is to go in and try to get those quick wins. It's like, what can I do here immediately to kind of get you to that next level, while also encompassing the sales leader strategies and, the goals of the company, while keeping that in mind too. So it's kind of all about that it's really that balance, right? It's of the tactical and the strategic decisions that you have to monitor.
But there's something there that I think you said looks really valuable, and that's early on in the relationship. If you can do something for them that actually helps them and makes them more productive, or however you help them, that sets the relationship off in like a really good frame, right? For you then to influence them to do stuff for you down the road. Is that what you meant?
Exactly. And yeah, and it's pulling that kind of tying that into the training and stuff, and rolling out these new tools that you want to show them what's relevant to them, rather than just making a standard training program, a 1 hour session for everyone. Really kind of personalizing that and saying, hey, this is the benefit to you. This is why this is going to help you in your role, whether you are a BD, whether you are an inside salesperson, whether you're on the marketing side, and really just trying to make that more of a personalized approach.
Got it. Onboarding salespeople. How many salespeople have you guys onboarded this year, and do you have like a formal process for doing that?
Yeah, numbers wise, I'm not exactly sure, but we do have a formalized program. So whenever the sales whenever anyone joins TTEC, we have a fantastic kind of company onboarding process that what's required for week 1, month 3, et cetera. So those regular check-ins. But for the sales team, I'm there either at the beginning, probably later in the first week, and then ongoing after that. So really training them on the sales tools, the Salesforce processes. This is how we do certain things. This is where you go to for certain questions, and really just kind of providing them with everything that they need, right? Kind of a single cheat sheet that says, if you have questions about Salesforce, here's who you go to. If you have questions about products or services, here's where you go to. So just trying to, especially with information overload, I guess that's with every company as soon as you start out. So just trying to condense that and make things simple.
Got it. Are you involved in the sales forecasting process?
Yes. So running those weekly forecast calls, monthly, quarterlies. That's something that we're continuing to evolve and continuing to challenge ourselves. So, monitoring trends, monitoring just the health of the overall pipeline. So yeah, that's something that's definitely top of mind and one of my primary responsibilities.
Got it. And then do you also have sales leadership in that meeting as well, or is that just you and the salespeople?
Yeah. So the forecast calls that I participate in primarily are with the various sales leaders of the company. So with all the different departments, there are times that I'll always try to come in and sit in on those one-on-one calls where possible, but most of the time it's kind of more those group and departmental calls, and able to hear what's going on, and from the forecast perspective with the sales team, and then with our inside sales team as well. So kind of hearing what's going on both sides of the funnel.
Got it. So the sales leader will have manager would have the individual forecasting calls with their reps, and then you also have a group call where all the sales leaders come on, and that's the meeting that you attend and that you participate in.
Exactly. That's correct.
Okay. Shifting now to making reps more productive. Do you have any kind of campaigns at the moment, or have you done anything in the past that have boosted productivity of your reps?
Yeah. So, it's kind of tied into the kind of the backbone of what I've tried to do, and that's the building the trust and building the relationships in order to continue to tweak processes and put things more clearly for the sales team, whether it's those guidance for success steps at each stage, just trying to continue to refine the process. It's continuous improvement. There's never going to be a time where you sit back as a sales ops person and say, this is great, I'm done. There's always something to be worked on, to be tweaked. So yeah, with productivity, I think the big thing that we're trying to work on is just transparency with activities, seeing the kind of the cadences of who's reaching out at different times, where those handoffs are taking place. Just making sure the left foot is in front of the right, and we've got kind of our marching orders.
Got it. And KPIs that you're currently tracking, or like the core KPIs you're tracking in those forecasting meetings, what are the KPIs you find most useful?
Probably pretty standard there. So the bookings versus target for the month, for the quarter, and then the next quarter as well. We also have some additional. I'd mentioned kind of our Power BI analysis and things like that. So kind of more the in-depth stage durations and what it takes to win a deal. So how often does an opportunity come in and hit every stage? Are we seeing jumps? So continuing to kind of monitor that, and then I think I've heard this on a couple of the previous podcasts as well, and kind of the average sales cycle versus average deal size. Kind of wanting to accelerate the time it takes to close a deal, but also seeing what the effect is of the revenue associated with that. So that's definitely a balance. I think that's kind of my theme of everything. There's definitely a balance there.
That's super interesting, isn't it? And I can't remember who said that. I should remember, but how they're basically saying that if you try and speed time to close, that could impact total revenue of the deal, and therefore it may not be a good idea to totally optimize like velocity through the pipeline, right?
Right. Yeah. You start having those questions. Is it worth increasing your deal, by 20% if it extends the sales cycle by 10 days? What are kind of those trade-offs? So obviously those are the things that we try to report up, and then people a lot smarter than me are making those decisions.
And that's like a classic sales operations problem, right? Like no one else in the business would A, have the ability, or B, would be involved in that decision.
Yeah, exactly. So, being there on the front lines and kind of seeing seeing the details, and then rolling that up. So yeah, it's definitely great when you as a sales operations person can present something that, wasn't just visible or transparent at an eye glance view, that you can, do some, data analysis and do some unique reporting to kind of help tell a story and maybe kind of impact decisions.
Yeah. Okay. Final question. Who has taught you the most about sales operations?
Yeah. So I think what's been interesting is I've never necessarily rolled up to a sales operations manager or a director of sales operations, but I have always been, I've always ultimately reported to either a higher level sales business development person or an operations person. And I think I've tried to do my best to kind of pull together everything that they've taught me of, what it takes to run a successful operations. What are those key metrics that leadership likes to see? So I think that's, trying to do my best to incorporate all of those. I've been fortunate enough to have some great leaders and great mentors already here in my early career, and I think that's kind of what's driven me to that. But I also want to, the second part of that question, or second part of that response, I want to applaud you and EBSTA for what you are doing with this podcast. This has been a tremendous resource for me personally. I can only imagine how much, being someone who's experienced and has 5 years experience, there's so much that I'm continuing to learn. So I would have definitely loved to have been listening in at day one of sales operations. This would have been tremendous. So again, thank you for putting this on. This has been terrific for me personally.
Doug, my pleasure. You're actually the first person that said that, so that's amazing. Thank you. Let me pick out the things that I particularly liked. When they succeed, I succeed, which is like a great mindset for any person in sales operations. Being the data police, I thought it was quite funny. This is super interesting. It's proving early on that you can add value to a salesperson's life early on in that relationship. So later down the road, when you're trying to influence them to adopt a tool, change their process, then they're going to trust and believe that you truly want their best interests. And then finally, this is also true. Never will there be a time when you're done, right? No one's going to sit back. No sales ops person is going to sit back and be like,
You've got it. That's right.
So those things I picked out. Derek, thanks so much for your time. Super insightful. And sorry, everyone. For people listening to the recording, we were actually a little bit late, which was our fault, not Derek. So if anyone was trying to watch live, but then it dropped out because we were too late, I apologize to you. That won't happen again. But Derek, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.